Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
Today we're here to talk to you about Julian of Norwich.
Yes, and actually we're talking about her book because in a previous episode, which we'll link up there, we discussed about how that author discussed both the writings of the first female English writer and then pop culture in the same one. And I thought, I'm sure lots of people would like to know more about the first English female writer, because this is the one time when all the women in the church group get together, and I actually agreed. Like, we had a general study of, like, Christian writers throughout history, and afterwards we're all like, we're totally going to read more of of Julian of Norwich.
Well, and here's the thing. I've never read her Revelations of Divine Love, but I've encountered quotes of hers here and there, and they all seem pretty solid.
So much like many people that we've gone talking about in our show, keeping track of their births and their deaths is a little sketchy.
So, we know she was probably born around 1342 or 43, because in her book she notes something that happened at a set age and gives the date for that. And she died sometime after 1416 because there's no more records of her after that point.
So we don't have definitive proof, but it's logical to assume that at some point she died.
Yep. We actually don't even know what her real name is, because she was an anchoress in the Church of St. Julian's Church in Norwich. Oh. So she was then named after the church when she gave up her earlier life. We assume she's probably wealthy because, A, in order to be in that position, you had to have the means to be, taken care of, whether you had someone that, helped beg for money. But she had an actual maid. So.
Essentially, well,
the maid was on the outside bringing her food.
Nice.
Essentially, because they didn't want you to be a burden upon the finances of the church, you had to be self-sufficient.
If you're going to build your little cell, you're going to build your little cell. We're not going to use the collection to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. See, that explains why I've always been puzzled why her name was Julian.
Yes.
So that's clearly a male name. She's named after the church.
Although some people do call her Julia.
Of course. I think I've also seen it Juliana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Apparently, when she was younger, she wanted 3 graces from God, which she believes that she received.
Nice.
All right. Number one.
To have a recollection of Christ's passion.
Ugh.
Oh, okay. I can see the grace in that. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
2, to be sick to the point that everyone thought she was going to die and be able to receive last rites before it was right before she died.
So basically, she wanted her death to be kind of sort of a predictable thing, so that she can make sure she got all the graces right before the end.
Well, no, because she wanted to recover from that.
She wanted like a fake out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 3, she wanted what she referred to as 3 wounds from God.
This lady is hardcore.
Seriously.
Listen, she walled herself up inside a church.
That's fair. And she walled herself up inside a church, and she apparently doesn't mind that her name has disappeared.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. What are these 3 wounds from God?
Contrition, compassion, and longing for God.
None of those are Latin words.
No.
All right. Contritio, compatio, and longing for God. I don't.
Okay.
All right, so we know from her writings that at about age 30 and a half, she was so sick that she received last rites. And we know this takes place on the 13th of May in 1373. So that's how they calculated about how old she was.
Okay.
And during that time, she received 15 visions, or she called them showings from God. Ooh. And then an additional one the last day, so there's 16 total.
Okay, that's pretty impressive.
So that's why she wrote what was the short text of her book that she called Showings right away. And then as she had time to think about this, she then wrote the longer text with more explanation.
So this is what happened. I got to get it out right away.
Yep.
And then later, this amazing thing happened, and this is what I've been contemplating about it ever since.
Yes.
Cool.
And as you can tell by the fact that it was visions, she's a mystic, so a lot of her stuff translates very well. A lot of the stuff, like all mystics, you look at it and go, there's a fine line between being really deep and heretical. And she throughout history has been shown to be on the correct side of that line.
But she's skirting it.
But when you read it, sometimes your interpretation. So you should always be careful with that.
Of course.
But her book was first published as 16 Revelations on the Love of God in 1670.
Very nice.
And it has been popular in time throughout since then. She's quoted in the Catechism. Pope Benedict XVI went and had a whole general audience on December 1st, 2010 that was just about her.
Nice.
T.S. Eliot went and quoted one of her most famous lines in one of his poems, making it very popular, which is, "All will be well, and in every manner of things will be well." Which
I like that.
is so popular on the internet in a Christian group. Just the other day, an Anabaptist quoted that exact line.
I didn't even know they were still a thing.
It's the group that's like the Amish and Mennonites, only he has no problem with technology.
But they've been around for like forever.
I just like that, he tends to disagree with every Catholic position on everything. They're pacifists, they have adult baptism.
We have adult baptism.
But only.
Oh, yeah.
I think he believes that everyone's going to be saved, which, kind of ruins the whole point of doing anything.
Oh, yes, universalism. That's not an ancient heresy.
Yes, but still.
That's the thing. When we are trying to dialogue with our separated brothers and sisters, without pasting over our differences, let's focus on the things we have in common.
Well,
yes,
I can tell you one thing we have in common.
It is a 13th century religious person who had mystical visions.
And apparently, I mean, given that, according to these notes here, there's actually a contemplative order of monks and nuns within the Episcopal Church who are devoted to Julian of Norwich.
Well, it makes sense because St. John Henry Newman didn't just come out of nowhere.
Yes.
There was a whole movement within the Anglican Church to, return to the sources, to embrace, their Catholic heritage. Some people took that to its logical...
You need to keep going a little bit further.
Yeah. Some people took that to its logical conclusion. Other people, like C.S. Lewis, could only go so far.
Yeah.
Yes. In her hometown, there's lots of festivals and stuff.
Sure,
Because, again,
in Norwich.
even if you're not religious, this is the first, English writing by a female.
Well, and I guess that's one thing that'd be very interesting. I should really read these revelations because these would be originally written in English. It would be Middle English.
You couldn't understand it in its original, but,
But still, it's not written in, ancient Latin. It's not written in Greek somewhere.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. I will say, as it is an old, writing, much like how occasionally you read an old novel and you're like, why is there a nonfiction chapter in here? It is not in the style that you normally expect. Like, the first time I read it, I'm like, how many visions does she have? It says 16, but I'm like, I'm the 20-something of here because she just keeps going back and, circling around. And,
The short text 22.
yeah.
Well, again, you return to these things over and over again. You keep looking at it from different angles.
Yes, and as I accidentally, stated that she was a saint and then had to correct myself, she's not officially a saint. However, her feast day is May 8th in the Church of England, Episcopal, and Lutheran churches. And her unofficial feast day is May 13th in the Catholic Church. And although she isn't a saint, she might be declared one because there's also rumors that she's on lists to be a doctor of the church for her writings. And in order to be a doctor of the church, you have to be a saint. So it'd be one of those weird ones where, they instantly get declared a saint without the normal process because, well, when she lived, there probably wasn't the process completely in place anyway.
Exactly. At the time, it was mostly local acclamation.
Yes, and we've been reading her book for 700 and some years, and
No, that is one of the means they use.
No.
If there is
Probably closer to 6.
you may not have a verifiable miracle, but if there is a long-standing cultus, that is a very good argument.
All right, so go down below to the comment section and maybe you suggest some other saints or holy persons,
should be,
or people who, or holy persons who should be saints that you'd like to hear us talk about. Hit the subscribe button, the bell next to it to get notified when the next episode comes out. Hit that like button, and remember until next time to live your faith,
love your faith,
and share that love.